All right, team. Happy Thursday. I'm super excited for today's show. First of all, welcome to the Ravit Show. And today we are talking about something which is very interesting. And the big theme for today's show is today's tomorrow's legacy. Veronika has been talking a lot about it lately, and not just lately, but that's something she talks a lot about. And we would love to learn more about that. But we'll also be covering topics like data modeling, data teams, and everything data. So don't hesitate to ask questions around it. Let us know where you're joining from. And also for those who are joining us and don't know, we always like, if you're new to the show, we always do something which is very cool, like a giveaway. And this time, what we are doing is the Ravit Show swag giveaway. So, what you need to do is just type in hashtag the Rabbit Show in the chat. Let me just quickly let you know this bold. So if you type in hashtag the Rabbit Show in the chat, what you can do, what we'll be doing is we'll be picking one winner towards the end of the show who'll be getting the swag. So feel free to jump in, type in hashtag the Rabbit Show, and we'll be getting the ball rolling in a bit. All right, it's time for us now to invite our guest here, Veronika. Welcome to the Ravit Show. Such a pleasure to have you here. You're the head of data at Saks, and we would love to learn more about a lot of things today. But like you said, the big theme, like I said, obviously the big theme for today is tomorrow's legacy, and we would love to learn more about that. But yeah, welcome again.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, so excited to be here. I'm going like in my mind. I'm gonna try to be cool and grown up like, but oh my God, I'm on the Rabbit Show. So there's a little bit of like fangirling in my head going on. Ooh, so excited. So thank you for having me. Super excited. Yeah, I think a lot about kind of like everything that we're building today because what's first of all, like I love words, right? Like, and
Right.
legacy is such an interesting word because like if it's like a noun and then somebody left their legacy, it's a good thing. Like your grandma left legacy, you're like, oh, I inherited a bunch of money. Versus legacy in tech, it's like a bad thing, right? Like, oh, legacy
Mm,
system, it's something that's old but so embedded that it's like impossible to replace. So I love this, and it's kind of like playing around words. Like, can we, with the tech changing so fast, everything around us
mm,
changes so fast, so much more data. We all want to crank through that data. It's really true. Whatever I build today, tomorrow is outdated. Even if we're like, we all look at our code and like code you wrote like, 3 months ago, you're like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed because we learned so much. There's so much new. So I kind of like love this concept of how can we build something today that it doesn't become that bad legacy system, but instead becomes something like, $1 million, right?
wow.
But let me first introduce myself. I kind of jumped in.
Yes, please.
So, yeah, Veronica, I've been in data. I'm going into my third decade of working in data. And then I know like some people like,
Mm,
oh, I already retired from data. So I'm kind of like probably mid-career, but my entire career I spent working with data. I fell into
mm,
my first DBA job right out of college. I was pre-med in college, fell into kind of like my DBA job, loved it so much. Ended up getting master's degree in software engineering because at the time there was no degrees in data, and just been around since then. I love it. So it's a job, but it's also a hobby, and that's why I try to engage with the community. That's why I'm a Snowflake data superhero. I just love it. I, spend time mentoring people who want to become data professionals. So it's all about data for me. Works for different companies in different roles, different maturities, different industries. Again, kind of been a little bit of everything throughout my career. And I think like I said, started from, junior DBA and going all the way to the head of data. I love SQL. Don't judge, love it. So I try to stay hands-on as much as I can. That's kind of it. It's again my job, my hobby, but also outside. I have a family, I have a couple of boys. We're, household of two working professionals, which comes with its own juggling, prioritization. I say
right.
I'm the chief mom officer. COVID, if anything else, just taught us that we transitioned from, bus drivers and nurses to teachers to lunch people.
Exactly.
So it's like it's work in itself. Like, and I shouldn't call it work, because we love it, we love our families, but it's also it takes a bit of adjustment and juggling and prioritization just to be able to run the household as well.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine the thing that I love about you're kind of super enthusiast about obviously data, but at the same time it's more like an hobby for you, so you don't feel it like a job, and that also makes you the chief mom officer, which is very cool. So can't wait to hear about the stories, and definitely, you spoke about the legacy. It all makes sense. Can't wait to jump into something which are the topics for today: data modeling, data teams, and everything data. So, for the folks who are joining us, feel free to bring in your questions. I already see Nick King joining us, which is very cool. Nick, I see Sony is here. Very nice to see you, Sony from
Hi, Sunny.
Hotspot. There are many more folks who are joining us, and I see a LinkedIn user also saying it is the biggest job of them all, which is managing, hustling around the household, and at the same time just working in data. But to start with, obviously, I wanted to get into something which is around data modeling in Veronika, can you tell us about data modeling and how it has evolved over years that you've seen?
Yeah, I actually looked up a definition. I was like, okay, what's a definition? And one of the ones that I really like, I stole from Microsoft Power BI website. So it
Hmm.
says data modeling is the process of analyzing and defining all the different data your business collects and produces, as well as the relationship between those bits of data. I think it's a great definition, and the reason for that is because it talks about business. We
Hmm.
kind of lose track of what we do, and we're engineers. I love building, I love creating, I love architecting, but at the end of the day, it's really all about business. So it's data about your business, like, and we should never forget that. How I saw this evolve, so I started again a long time ago, though maybe not long, depends how you measure. And we ran on-prem systems, right? So we
Hmm.
were very much limited by how much space we had, by the power of the hardware that we had. We had to be very thoughtful about how we store data so that we could store as much as possible. And that's kind of like where, third normal form came very important. Now I'm talking about kind of like physical modeling of data. Data warehouses, that's why star schema became so popular. We were able
Hmm.
to jam as much data as possible into very limited hardware systems. As we
Right.
transitioned into the cloud, now it's like unlimited scalability, though we can probably,
Exactly.
spend another hour talking about it. We lost that. Now it's like, oh, I'm just going to throw data here and then I'm going to throw the same data there. And what's happening, kind of like why data modeling is coming back, now we realize that we actually fell into something that we as data professionals joke about all the time. We have two reports reporting on the same numbers. Why are those numbers different? And
Exactly.
the reason they're different is because that data underneath is modeled differently, right?
Hmm.
So, and again, focusing, I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but please ask questions on business first. Businesses are similar but different. It's very important that our models reflect our business, and then
Right.
we are less dependent on where data is coming from. And our model will always reflect how our business operates, what our business needs, and how it grows. So I kind of
Right.
threw a lot at it. So if you have any other questions, yeah.
No, yeah, I think that's a good definition and a good explanation out there about how it has evolved and how you. I know for a fact where you're kind of closely working around data modeling, around the data models, and you might have seen it very closely. So that's one of the reason I wanted to ask you, and obviously you've explained it very well. Thanks for that, Veronica. We also have a few questions here. One question here from Sony, which I'll be surely taking in. But before that, I wanted to also learn more about how important you think is data modeling for modern data-driven companies, and are there any risks to not having well-designed, data models internally? How will it impact? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, so modern company, do you like, again, like I'm gonna get this very wordy. What is your definition of a modern company? Are we talking about smaller startup, newer company? You probably shouldn't focus on data modeling to begin with. You
Hmm.
want, it's like it's very important, this whole concept of data to value, because your company
Right.
is moving as a startup, moving really fast because you're still trying to figure out who you really are.
Exactly.
Spending time on like understanding what your business is, you'll never finish it, right? Because the business itself doesn't know what it is yet. So I feel like that's almost like data modeling at that stage of a company is too early. um, versus modern company that's a little bit more mature, kind of knows what they're doing. Yes, it's very important to have a data model that reflects the business, because then you can, kind of like historically see how the company was performing. You can adjust and replay your business rules if you have all the data modeled in the way how your business is. So I think it depends. I think at the end of the day, if you ever want to be able to consistently understand how your business operates, how your customers interact with you absolutely want to kind of like standardize on a model.
Yeah. No, I think definitely those that kind of makes a lot of sense when you and a good point there when you are just a startup, you can't focus on a lot of the data modeling bit, and as compared to the larger organization, it's a different ball game altogether. So that makes a lot of sense. Also, we have one. Let's take a quick question from Sony that I was talking about. Is data modeling on the rise or fall given in semantic layers or MDS? What do you think about that?
So, well, I want to say it's on the rise for maybe selfish reasons. I think data model also allows us to effectively store data. So there's that other side, like for performance optimizations, the models, like when you talk about physical implementation of them, they help you
Right.
organize data in the most effective way. So it's kind of like another reason. I hope it's on the rise. Semantic layer is a model, is it not? Modern data stack, oof, that's a hot topic. Modern data stack made things so easy that we stopped paying attention to our models, but hopefully now as we get more and more data, it is that much more important that we organize it so we can use it.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Thanks for that question, Sony. Also, I wanted to know some common challenges that you face creating a data model, or and how do you overcome them, Veronica?
I think the biggest challenge is like you have to keep in mind that, like businesses are not rigid, right? They keep
Hmm.
evolving, they keep trying to, kind of modernize and get into different areas and categories. So I
Right.
think the biggest challenge is keeping your model agile and able to grow with your business. So
Hmm.
how do you, and also like it's iterative process. And I think that's so important. Like again, kind of like today's tomorrow's legacy. The model,
Right.
our business from a year ago is not the same as today. So
Hmm.
building it in a way that you can, adjust it to reflect your current business, but also not lose history of how it was in the past. Because it's
Right.
important, right? Like as your company grow, you always want to see how you do, and year over year, month over month, how different cohorts of customers are performing. So you kind of want to make
Exactly.
sure that you can do that comparison, and even for machine learning, right? Can you retrain your model? You have to have that historical data that doesn't change from under you.
Hmm. And uh, does that also impact the matrix that obviously helps the companies to just help them to achieve those goals basically? Do you think with data models that it kind of makes it easier when you have different types of data models applied there?
I'm not sure I understand your question, but I'll say yes anyway. I think like just if we have a common understanding of what, our business is and how it operates.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. So that's something exactly what I was wanting to ask. But another question that I have around the same is, any emerging trends that you've lately seen in data modeling and that you think could make a significant impact in the near future?
I think it's a funny question. So I think the old is new again is a big trend now. I think, data vault modeling is, data vault methodology is brilliant, but it's been around for a very long time. So it's kind of
Yeah.
making a comeback. You know, Dimensional star schemas, we lost track of it a little bit as well, so it's coming back. But I think what's
Hmm.
really pushing us now is the sheer volume of data and this up and coming streaming. We can't make copies anymore, right? Like we have to minimize how many times we keep the same data in how many places in this kind of like this real time, near real time analytics. We can't,
Hmm.
spend 2 hours cranking through data. I haven't seen a pattern established quite yet, but I think just the sheer volume of data will push us towards kind of adjusting the things that we know to adapt something else. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that pretty much makes a lot of sense there. Thanks, Veronica. Before we jump on to something which is another big topic for the day around data engineering, just a quick reminder for the folks who've joined us a little late that you can type in hashtag the Ravit Show to join in the raffle game, and we'll be giving away one swag towards the end of the show. So I'll be Veronica, it's a very cool way to give out this swag by this raffle towards the end of the show. I'll let you know more about it. But jumping on to our next topic, which is data engineering, and very hot since a while now. Can you explain the role of a data engineer and how it differs from that of a data analyst, data scientist? Because there's always, an understand, a thin line difference, to be honest, around these roles. But sometimes when you get deeper into it, it's a lot of they all these roles are independently doing a lot in different ways. So can you tell us more about data engineering and how it is different from these roles?
Yeah. So it's an opinion. And
Yeah,
just so like everything I share is an opinion, one person's opinion based on my journey.
exactly.
But it's true because oftentimes, I see people making statements and it's like, well, it's not the case from my experience, but it's true for their experience. So kind of like step like prefix fine print. So data engineer, to me, data engineer, again, personal opinion, I already had like multiple kind of like not arguments, but just kind of sharing different opinions.
Yeah,
To me,
that's okay. Yeah.
it's somebody who's responsible for ingestion, somebody who
Hmm.
takes data from place A and puts it in place B. So I know there's different opinions. Then I separate, I love analytics engineering. Taking
Oh,
away DBT, to me, has nothing to do with DBT. To me, it's the evolved role of, ETL developers, data architects. It's the people that take data, model it
right.
based on business needs, and deliver it in a way that's easy to be used by various other teams, whether it's BI tools or advanced analytics. So that's to me a role of an analytics engineer, and I absolutely love the fact that it's now an engineer role because
Hmm.
they truly design it, they talk to business, they understand, they build it, they test it. So I love it. But again, it has nothing to do with DBT in my mind. I know it was
Yeah.
initially kind of came about based on DBT. And then data scientist is another great vague. I mean, technically, we could be all data science. That doesn't matter to me. Data science is really just an advanced data analyst. They could write, complicated SQL, or they can, write models, or they can do something in R. They just take that data and they, apply statistic analysis sometimes. Sometimes it's just a simple query to do whatever it is that they need to do. Again, like super opinionated kind of like thoughts here.
Yeah.
And the other thing that, as I'm sure you've seen, if you go to a small company and you have a
Hmm.
team of one, that team of one decides whatever title they want. When you go to a
Yeah.
very large company, it's many, many different teams. And it's at that point, it's like, I've had a title of a principal software engineer once. I've never in my life wrote any software, but
Hmm.
that's just
You never
how
know.
they.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with software. It was always data, but that's how that company kind of decided to title me.
Yeah, I think you're right. First of all, great details there about analytics engineering, about data engineers, and definitely all opinion are yours. And it's very interesting to see how these roles have evolved. Talking about analytics engineering, like how it is defined, where it's more around the side where they're kind of very much aligned with the business goals, and that makes a lot of sense. And at the same time, I think you also made a very good point around if you go to a small company, you can choose your own title. So sometimes it's that way, and sometimes it's also where you call yourself a data engineer, but you're kind of doing the work of a data scientist, and that can happen. And a lot of times that can, uh, that can come out wrong, but still, that will happen in the long run. So that's fine. All right, Veronica, we have a few questions here from our audience, so why not pick them up? One interesting question here from George. So George is asking, do you think the data engineer role will evolve now with more and more self-serve tools? What do you think?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. And again, depends on an environment you're in. I think it'll be less hardcore writing code that's why I separate kind of like to me data engineer move data from place A to place B because it's true to me hardcore programming. If there isn't a tool to ingest data, you actually have to write code to ingest it. 100% George. I think, some companies can get away from that role that deals with ingestion.
Hmm,
But I still think there is going to be those engineers that have to understand the business, model it, and deliver
right.
products that can be consumed by other less technical teams. So I don't think we
Okay.
can get away. We can't get away from that. They're like standard models, but they're still, they get you halfway there, but there's that other half that's special to your company that you still have to do. Yeah.
Perfect. That's super interesting. Thanks, George, for that question. Another quick question here from Vrishali. So Vrishali is asking, hi, Veronica, what is the best data modeling practice trend according to you, which will prove to be very useful for data analytics? And I'm sorry, data analysts. Yeah.
So I'm very biased. I'll say Data Vault. But again, I'm biased. I
Right.
love it. Like I relate to it. I get it. But I think learning all of them, knowing a little bit about each one, I think it depends on the company and their needs. Also,
Right.
their tooling. Um, like I'll keep saying it depends. Like you have to kind of figure. I think like if you have to start learning with third normal form. That's a traditional relational modeling. All the
Hmm.
other kind of like relational models are still very similar to that kind of like foreign key, primary key relationships anyway. And data vault versus or data vault or ensemble modeling are kind of like slightly different from, your dimensional fact, but still you can then find similarities and it'll be easy to learn everything else. Um, Data analyst work, yeah, yeah, I think I would start with third normal form, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. Pretty interesting. Thanks, Vishali, for that one. Also, in terms of since we are on this topic around data engineering, what do you think? Like, you might have seen a lot of challenges, but what do you see? Like, according to you, what are some of the biggest challenges faced by data engineers in the modern data tech landscape, and how do you see them overcome them?
I think I'm gonna kind of George's question. I see a
Hmm.
lot of build versus buy, right? So there are plenty. One of the challenges I've observed with data engineers is they tend to lean towards build.
Hmm.
So which is as engineers we love to build, but we need to focus on delivering value. And oftentimes, it's actually better to buy a tool and free up time to focus on what's really important to, for the business to deliver value. So I think it's like it doesn't seem that way, but it's a huge challenge, at least,
Right.
from kind of like, again, from where I grew up in my career, that we have a very small team that just loves to build, but we can't
Hmm.
scale enough to support what we're building. While it's actually easier to go, especially now, like with multiple tools, just lowering how easy it is to ingest data, right? Like, again, for data ingestion, it is easier and cheaper to buy a tool.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty insightful. Also, before we jump on to something which is another huge topic for the day, which is around data teams, uh, quick question here from George that I would want to pick up. Very interesting question, George. How many data domains do you recommend to start with? Do you start with, let's say, customer and then expand into others, or do you map all at a high level first?
Oof. I would say don't start with customer. Customer is the
Hmm.
hardest thing to model. If you ask, because I mean, if you kind of ask every business area in your company, they will have a different definition of a customer. So it's like
Hmm.
customer's probably not where you want to start if you're just starting. Interview, your business users, and then you can kind of map it in different ways, right? Like you can prioritize, start with whatever is the simplest, most straightforward. Maybe it's your product list, like your product metadata, right? Or you can focus on what brings the highest value, and customer probably is that, but customer will be the never ending story of kind of like adjusting, redefining, and figure out what who is your customer. And as a matter of fact, you probably have various definitions, like totally perfectly well defined definitions of a customer. But yeah,
Yeah, they.
absolutely, map at a high level, kind of like at least define at a high level what's important to your company. um, Customer,
Mhm.
products, vendors. Is vendors customers? I don't know. Are you B2B, B2C? Are you both? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think 100% that does make a lot of sense when you are obviously just customers are super important, but if you start with customers, it can take you longer on the journey, and sometimes it could be never ending as well. So that's so true, Veronica.
And again, like
Awesome.
it's
Yeah.
data to value, right? Speed to deliver value. So don't focus on
Mm.
building, focus on what delivers value fast and just iterate on that. Nothing
Yeah,
like there's there's not an end to what we do, because, like
exactly.
I said, our companies continuously change. So we'll have a job.
That's so true. Awesome, Veronica. I'll jump on to something which is around data teams. What do you think is an ideal composition of a data team in terms of the roles and skill sets? Do you have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I'll share again. It's one of those things that depends on company, industry, maturity.
Mm,
Um, I've seen, I worked for a smaller company as like a one person data team, and that's okay because I could supplement everything else with a tool. There was,
right,
less data. We didn't run into like data wasn't all that complicated. So it was, one person. I had enough skills even with just like, I don't know Python. It's on my list to learn at some point, maybe. But with SQL, with kind of like my basic modeling, I supplemented everything else with a tool. In a
right,
larger org with, challenges, you'll want to have teams that are kind of like experts in specific areas. So that's that teal, right? Like they know a little bit of everything, but they specialize in specific area. For
right,
example, kind of going back to like data engineering, if your company has a lot of data that's in like not commonly known or used data sources, you'll be writing a lot of custom code. So you need to have those engineers that can do that. If you have a very complex business, You want to
Mm,
have people who are good at modeling and data wrangling, because they'll
right.
really need to understand what data you have, how business uses it, how they want to use it another way. So they'll have to model it really well and write that SQL to identify. If you have data quality issues, again, you need people who are really, really good at it. If you have,
Mm,
kind of going back again, pretty simple data sets, or maybe all you care is just operational reporting, you'll probably want to have strong data analysts to just
mm,
even visualize this data, like just your basic operational. I want to be able to see what's happening, kind of real-ish time, and
exactly.
I just want a bunch of dashboards. Um, Again, you get a little bit more sophisticated. You want to be like, I want to delight my customers. I want to personalize. Now you're
Mm,
going into your advanced analytics, data science, machine learning. So it depends on kind of maturity of the org, size of the org. And of course,
yeah.
DBAs. Let's not forget about DBAs. I know
DB.
we don't talk about it, but somebody has to like make sure that our source systems are happy.
Yeah. No, I think 100% you've first of all good information in terms of the roles, and obviously the org size kind of also matters. It's not always about a team which is a startup might work in a different way altogether as compared to a team which is at an enterprise level where there might be 10 folds to just one project, and that can take you longer on that run, and then a lot of teams can it can get a little difficult to obviously take a decision because there are so many folds to just one project, so all that makes a lot of sense.
And a
uh
couple more I
yeah.
forgot to mention was like I'm kind of focusing on engineering, data governance.
Mm, very
Again,
important.
depend very important. Depends on size and maturity. You might end up having a dedicated person, because it's like it's nice all of us do it a little bit, but like
Mm,
again, depends on maturity and size of your organization. And our PMs, both project and program managers, as well as
manager.
product managers, also depends on the size and the maturity of kind of like your company and your teams. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more. And we have one question here from Surendra. What are different roles in a data team, and how do they collaborate to drive business value? I think you've kind of answered a lot in your question already, but any last conclusion to that?
I think the only thing that I'll add to that is that um, data, again, in my mind, sits between business and engineering.
Hmm,
So I expect for my data engineers, analytics engineers to communicate directly with business. They're
exactly.
not hidden behind business analysts. They're not hidden. I would actually, I love it when, data people truly understand the business, not just like, oh, here's the requirement, I need ABC. No, I actually want to relate, empathize, and understand how business works, how our, people we work with, what they do daily,
Hmm.
why they do it, how we can help. I think in the end, we deliver better value to them.
Right. No, I think all this totally makes sense. One quick question, and I wanted to ask you around the effective communication, but you've already covered that. One quick question around this: when we talk about communication, then it also kind of brings up a lot of challenges. But what are some of the common mistakes that companies make when building or managing their data teams? Do you have some example in mind or any use case that you might have come across?
So I think, again, based on my experience, I worked on data teams that were so deeply embedded into engineering orgs, like
Hmm.
many, many layers away from like the C-suite. And
Okay.
those company, like, we weren't effective. They like one of the things which kind of killed me, one of the companies I worked for, the president of the company said that data is software exhaust. And I
Hmm.
said, this company will never ever utilize data to like to for something amazing, because if you think it's
Yeah.
just like, here you go, like if it's not up top with like building capabilities for software, then like I really don't want to be here because I'm not going to win. So that would be
Yeah.
kind of the only thing that I would add, making sure that data
Okay.
teams are closer to the top and have ability to truly, impact the business and help everybody.
Yeah, no, I totally agree in terms of, companies who kind of now I've seen most of the companies obviously focusing very much at the top level where data teams are given that importance. The data is that important, everyone knows, and on those, there are many decisions that have been made and very important decisions for the growth of the company. So all that really makes sense to me. Quickly, you're checking on one. Okay, before taking on one last question from the audience, I'll go out with my question, which is around how do you measure the effectiveness of a data team, and are there any key metrics you pay attention to?
That's a great one. I'm still figuring out the formula. Once I figure it out, I'll share. But I know it's yeah, I always struggle with measuring and smart goals. I think a lot of smart goals are just vanity metrics. Uh,
Hmm.
deliver X number of dashboards. Like this is such a vanity metric, for example, but it's easy to measure, right? I
Oh,
measure team by throughput. So it's kind of like that agility,
interesting.
right? We need to deliver something usable, even if very small, in every sprint.
Hmm.
So this is kind of like the groove I'm falling into right now. Still learning. I still like, if anything I learned in my career is that the more I know, the less I know.
Yeah.
So it's still learning, still adjusting and figuring out. But I think the agility and the throughput, we need to deliver value fast. And also when we deliver in small increments, it's actually very, very much okay to make a mistake because it's easy to fix it. So it's like
Right.
we deliver something, we're like, oh, oops, we modeled it wrong. Cool, we'll fix it in the next release versus when you like spend months building something out
Right.
just to realize that it's not it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, but still working on that formula.
Yeah, no, I think I agree, and it also goes back to our discussion, which was around delivering the value to the customers as well, where go out and just deliver value, make those iterations later, and it's the same within the teams as well. So that is very useful. Awesome. Quickly going on to one quick question here from Tony, and his question is from YouTube. He's coming from YouTube. How is your data team using AI to help drive business value? Has that ever been a case where you've seen, the AI help deliver the business value, Veronica? Very interesting.
Great question. Can't talk about my company. Uh,
Yeah.
Chat GPT is fun. It,
Mm,
I I asked it to help me with writing code for XML for Snowflake. It gave me code. That code didn't work.
wow.
So I'm kind of like, okay, bummer. And then I asked for something else and gave me a link to a page that 404. So I'm like, uh, I think in general, I think a lot of companies out there so far still not mature enough to have
Mm,
data in a shape that is usable for AI. I think
right.
we kind of like a lot of us kind of skip the whole, the analytics maturity pyramid of like we actually need to organize our data, we need to cleanse it, understand it before we can apply AI on it. We jump
Mm.
from like nothing to AI, and I think maybe that's why many AI initiatives fail. But once we get to that kind of like mature, trustworthy, understood data, we'll have more use cases.
Yeah, definitely. And those were pretty cool, interesting insights. Veronica, before we jump on to the last question for the day, it's time for us to do the very cool raffle. So, for those who've joined us very late, quickly wanted to tell you that we are giving away the swag of the Ravit Show. What you need to do is type in hashtag the Ravit Show and your I'm gonna go out and do the drum roll. So this is what I was talking about, Veronica. Let's do the draw here. We have 23 folks who've entered this. So let's see who the winner is. And quickly, it will pick one winner who has typed in hashtag on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, anywhere. And the winner is Aditi. Congratulations. You win the Ravit Show swag. I'll get to you. Awesome.
Congratulations. Your swag is the best. It's like the colors are so happy. I was just like, it's
it, it kind of it kind of gives me motivation as well when everything's bright. You need to, sometimes you kind of, in the podcasting world, in the show world, in the media business, you kind of feel tired, dull at times, but then this gives me the motivation. Go out there, have the sun color somewhere in your name, and then just enjoy every bit of it. And one thing I actually want to do for our audience today is do another draw. Actually, because this show was longer, folks stayed with us, so I'm doing another quick draw for our audience and quickly sharing the screen here. So we're going out with second winner. We have three more entries. Let's see who the winner is. This is always fun for the audience. They love the swag as well, and I love to send out swag to a lot of people around. So Michael won the swag. Michael, congratulations, and congratulations, Aditi, with all going out in sending your swag. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to ship that across. But Veronika, this was super interesting. We spoke about data modeling, data teams, data engineering, around data scientists, but a lot of other things as well. I know for a fact where we can go on for another hour, as we spoke off air as well, and we can go on for hours. But keeping time in mind, obviously, I'm sure I would love to have you again on the Ravit Show to discuss some more topics when we have more developments. And I'm pretty sure we'll cross paths, in some of the other events where we'll have more deeper discussions and bring it for our audience as well. Because whenever I meet folks, I always take their interviews. So always looking forward to that. But for our audience, if they want to reach out to you, want to learn more about data modeling, about your experience, about how to become a chief mom officer and all of those things, so how can they reach out to you? Which is the best place?
LinkedIn is the best place. I have a Twitter handle. I don't use it. So LinkedIn is,
Okay,
please connect. Happy to chat. I am also, I think, in just about every Slack community. So you can
nice.
find me in DBT, you can find me local optimistic, data camp. Yeah, always happy to chat, happy to share opinions. Strong opinions, loosely held. I learn a ton from everybody. I love to learn. Sometimes it's overwhelming, but please do reach out.
Awesome. That's amazing. So
Oh,
folks
thanks,
are
Brad.
there. You rock. Veronika is out. Mike is out there. He loves your perspective. But truly, this was very, very good insights for our community. So thank you very much once again for visiting the Ravit Show. Can't wait to host you again.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks everyone for joining us today. I'll see you next week. Thank you.